Welcome on my first step ever. I'm so excited that every time that I invite a guest speaker that I get to hear a story of their own of very unique experiences, and there we learn that how each one of us can take that one step towards our goal. There could be many things that might be surrounding us, the people, the feelings, the vibe, and probably our own internal situation. But what if I say that you always have a way to get out of it? Well, if you don't believe me, you must tune into this episode right away. So please join me in welcoming Claudia Varias all the way from Spain. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Shani. Hi. So excited to be here.
Welcome on my first step ever. I'm already thrilled to see your energy. It has just taken the entire episode on a different level right now. So before I start digging into a lot of questions that I have for you for your amazing journey that you've taken, I would like to introduce you today. From what I know of you, you have had a very good, successful corporate career for about 8 to 10 years, and you were working with really big, really well-known fintech companies. And then came a situation where you felt really burnt out, and you had a massive, an internal dialogue that you had one day, you don't understand what is going on. And then you took the charge of your life. You became your own coach, and now you are helping other people. You are the career and mindset coach for a lot of professionals out there. So Claudia, congratulations on starting your own venture and taking that first step in your life.
Thank you so much, Shani. Thank you.
Okay, I'm very excited. So usually what I do is I ask my guest speakers to take us back in their teenage time and tell us how everything, what were they surrounded with. But let me just straight away go to that phase where we know we'll find a lot of gold for everyone who's listening to us. The very end of your the glorious corporate career, what was going in your mind at that point in time?
Yes. Okay, let's dive straight into it then. So basically the context here. So I've been 8 years in corporate, and the way that I grew up is basically I had a goal. Okay, in my early 20s I had a goal to just get into big tech companies and just become a director as fast as possible. That was my goal. And I just took on the goal, but I never, I never sat down and actually reflected about that goal, why do I want that goal, right? Like, what is there for me in this, and why do I really want to do that? So I've been chasing that goal to really become a director as fast as possible in a big company. And so every career step that I've done was aligned towards that goal, right? So I moved to Dubai. I've spent some time in Dubai. I moved to London, spent some time in London. Then I moved to Barcelona to help set up like a new office and a new hub here in Europe for a big American company. And then I also took on masters in big data analytics while being a first-time manager. And so my most recent job was being a big data analytics manager for a big American company, managing a team of data scientists. And so every step was just aligned, to that goal. And I've been just dedicating like all my time, all my energy to make sure that I am being seen in my jobs, right? And I am being seen as a high performer, and that I am being seen as someone with potential, and that has been playing out like all along. So I always had really good opportunities. At the same time, I worked for these opportunities as well. Like, I don't believe that opportunities come up because of luck. I believe opportunities come up because you do the right work or you're committed, and then the right opportunities show up. And so it was so interesting because I was there. It was my 20th birthday, actually. So it was like 2 years ago. And
wow,
I was like, okay, I have everything that I really wanted, right? Like, I manage a big team. I'm a manager in a big American company. I earn well, right? It's like, okay, I have everything that I actually really wanted. And everyone, like my family, my friends, everyone around was like, oh, you have such a great career and you're doing so well. And, everything's so amazing. And, every evening though, before I went to bed, it didn't feel amazing whatsoever to me. I was like, especially the last like 2 years, it was like, I don't know, I don't feel it. Something is missing. Like, what's going on? And then obviously the pandemic hit as well. I feel like
Right.
that this time, right, when the lines are very blurry between work and private, like this time where you kind of realize, and the basic things of like going to the supermarket or going outside or just breathing suddenly became like scary things,
Yeah.
to do. There was the time where I just realized, okay, what's going on? Why do I feel like that? And then I just basically took a moment and realized, unfortunately, I've waited a long time because my body has been giving me signs all along the way that I was just exhausted. I was tired, that something is just not right, but I kept ignoring it. And so I reached a point where I had burnout, I had depression. And so I worked with coaches and therapists as well. I still do, because I just see the value in that. But in that time, I just realized that was the first time after so many years that I actually stopped and took a step back, actually, and reflected on what is it that I actually really want in my career. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kind of come in over here right now. And I wanted to ask you at this very point, my question over to you over here is that you mentioned a while back that you had very massive goals for you set out, and you were doing all the right things to get there, and you of course met and achieved your goals. So at that point in time, and when COVID hit, you just took a pause, and for the very first time you had some time to reflect upon your journey, that what has been going wrong. So during this time, like when you started off, when you had first put that goal into your head, do you remember by any chance like why you had that goal in your head?
Yes, Ishani, that's a super good question. Yeah, it's a super good question, because I do actually remember, and that goes like a way back. So when I finished high school, then the question's like, okay, what kind of university you go to, right? And what do you study? And so my family, they actually immigrated from Poland to Austria, and my parents like worked very hard to like 1 to 2 jobs to make sure that me and my brother have opportunities to go to school and to go to university. And so that there was a lot of this drive to like, on one hand, like make them proud as well, and on the other hand, I feel like in that age or in that time, you don't have exposure to all the possibilities that are really out there, right? And so there's like this perception in society of like, what is a successful career? And so before I took or made a decision on what I want to study, I felt like back then that I had like 3 choices, like either like, economics, law, or medicine. Like for me, they were the only 3 choices. Right? They are kind of seen as like, okay, you're going to
I feel you.
Yeah, okay, good. I think many people do. And so like, right, and I feel like that these are the only 3 choices that I had that made where I could be successful, essentially, right? And so I went the economics route, and that opened up a lot of doors, and I really love every experience. I loved every experience that I had, right? It contributed to who I am today. At the same time, I do think that in that age, like 17, 18, 19, whenever, before you go to like university, it is important to just like take maybe a little bit more ownership and just look around what else is out there in terms of like what you could study, what you could do and how this could look like. And then just like do a little bit more research on what is out there, rather than just thinking like this is what will give me success and that's all I can do, right? Which is just not true.
That is, I think, some golden tips coming out there from your experience. That's exactly the age where we should really start thinking on our own, and also go beyond, kind of think out of the box and understand what's more important is to have our own definition of success. Now that might be a bit challenging for a lot of us, but the way things are right now, it is very different. The way Generation Z is growing up, I would say, they are taking charge, they are taking their own decisions. But coming back to your story, Claudia, because I think there are many Generation Y people also over here who are also trying to, figure out what they want to do in their life. So I think it's going to reach out to a lot of audiences of different generations who are still willing to understand what is their definition of success. So, as you were mentioning, you were at a point during COVID that for the first time, you took that break to reflect. Then what happened?
Yes, then what happened? Like suspensive music. Let's imagine a suspensive music. So, what happened? What happened is that I've for the first time actually ever, I started to look inwards. And what I mean by looking inwards is like, I started to essentially get to know myself really, right? I feel like until then, I don't regret any experience that I've had. I was though chasing external validation and external recognition and like this sense of like how a successful career should look like, right? So, all about title, company, salary, all these kind of things. And this was then the first time when I started to work with a coach on this, to just understand what is it actually that I want, like who am I? Like if I'm not my job title, if I'm not the data analytics manager at this company, then who am I? And these are just the simple things, because like I was so consumed with that back then career and that work that even like there was this question that I've been asked, like, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, what are my hobbies? But like reading, and it's just like, because all you do is just work. Or what I've done is just work to achieve that kind of goal that is not yours. And so I started to really reconnect with myself, because I've also realized that in that setting that I was in, I couldn't be my fullest authentic self, right? I had to put a mask on. I had to play along in certain kind of situations. And I've realized that this contributed in a way as well to how I felt. It's like, if you have to pretend to be someone you're not every single day for like 8 to 10 hours a day, at some point there will be a moment where you would just feel very like, whoa, like, do I really want this? Right.
Yeah.
And so then I started to do all this big work, and then I just realized, okay, what else is out there, right? Because for me, I was very narrow-minded. It was only black and white for me, like the thinking that I had back then. It's just like, okay, I'm in corporate, I'm climbing up the corporate ladder, and I continue to do that. Deep down, I did have always, like, in most of my like adult years, I had an idea of like, I would love to be my own boss, but somehow that idea was just like in another galaxy almost, it was not something. It's like, no, like there's no one in my family that has their own business. None of my friends, like it was just, it felt like it's not for me. However, I've then realized that I've then opened up like different portals basically to this other galaxy. And the good thing was like to just not set myself any huge goals anymore, but just to be curious on what else is out there. And so then I did a professional coaching certification for 6 months. And then through that, I learned more about myself and I gained the skills. And then through that, I just realized, okay, I really want to do this. I really want to help people transform their careers, right? And I really want to help people to get a new perspective and just at the end enjoy life and not identify yourself with your career so much, and just be here for what life really is here for. And so basically when you build up then your own business, and when clients come to me during this time, I'll never say, okay, quit your job right now and focus fully on this business. This is not realistic. Like building up your own business, it takes time, right? It's a long-term thing. And so I've done that as well myself. So I stayed 1 more year in a manager job while I was working on my coaching business to pay off student debts, right? There are different kind of things that you need to prioritize first to have some buffer aside. And then in January this year, I quit and I fully focus on my business, and I'm running my own coaching, career changing and mindset coaching business.
Lovely. Let me just trace back a few steps and highlight some of the amazing things that you have very naturally, in a very candid way, you have just shared with us. The first thing I would like to kind of highlight over here is that you mentioned that you looked inwards. This is something that we do not realize, that there is a world inside which is much, much more important and a bit more easier to kind of work upon, because there are many factors outside that's not in our control. And I think that is one question that a lot of us should be asking ourselves at whatever age we are. It doesn't mean that, if you get your answers, that you are a kind of a person that maybe is a bit different from the kind of job that you're doing. But if you still like what you're doing, you can find out ways to be yourself and keep doing that job. It's not about, one day, as Claudia just said, suddenly one day just going there and just, quitting everything that you've done in your entire life. I'm sure that you have done a lot of hard work to get wherever you are, but it's all about taking some time off, or taking a pause and reflecting that, is this what you really want? Is this who you really are? And the next very interesting thing that you mentioned is that, that you I like that you are very honest. You said that you just thought black and white. Well, there are many who just think that way because we are trained that way. And I'm
Yes.
happy that people are taking that step nowadays, And for example, you have come here to share your story, being very honest that how we think, why we think that way, and how your thinking changes. And that is the essence of everything that can change in your life, your thinking. So, Claudia,
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking us through those few steps. And now let's get to the point where you mentioned that that's when you started your business, and there was one whole year of uh, very challenging time where you were setting up your business. Are you able to take us through top 3 challenges while you were setting your business for the very first time?
Yes. So top 3 challenges. So the first one, it's interesting because it has nothing really much to do with like the working the hours or the hustling kind of thing, right? It has more to do related to mindset and how things made me feel. So the top challenges for sure was first for me to like gain the confidence and really believe that I can do this. Right? Because, especially if you're in an environment where people around you, they don't have had experience in that and they don't believe that it is possible for them. So they project it on you as well. Right? And they don't mean it in
Wow,
that
true.
way, but they just don't know differently. Right? So it's like, when I'm very lucky because I have a very supportive partner who was always like, yes, go for it, try it. And that was really important. However, I will say that the number one challenge was like really to have the confidence in myself and to not let myself like not pursue what I wanted to pursue because of the limiting beliefs of people around me, right? So that's, I think, the first one. The second one was then to set boundaries really at work, but also with friends and family members, in a sense that, like, especially at work, like for someone who I was dedicated to my job, right? So I was working a lot of hours, after hours, sometimes weekends, all these kind of things, to then suddenly kind of detach from that job, right? And to set boundaries and to say no to certain kind of projects and to say like, okay, no, I have to take care of myself first, right? So that was definitely a challenge. And then the third one, I'd say, is to stay persistent, over the course of the time. So of course I had, in this 1 year when I was juggling both, of course I had situations where I was like, will this really work out? And oh my God, like I'm overwhelmed. But I've learned like over the course of the time how to deal with it. The most important part is that you don't stay stuck in this feeling of overwhelm, right? It's an emotion. Like if you're overwhelmed, it's just because your nervous system is very activated, right? So you need to do something to calm down your nervous system. And so really diving deeper and like understanding how you work, like then just go for a walk, journal, dance it out, whatever it is, but just don't stay stuck in that overwhelm, because then that will, make you stuck and you don't move forward. And at the end, when you set up your own business, it requires persistence, persistence in a sense. It's just like continue to do the right things regularly and the results will show, right? And so I'd say that these were the top 3 challenges that come into my mind now.
I like how you explain all these challenges and how you overcame them, because that's what we're really looking for. And one very interesting and important point that you touched upon is like everyone feels overwhelmed, but it is important to not get stuck in that emotion. And you also explain how to move on. I think that was amazing. So thanks, Claudia, for taking us through this amazing journey. I want to end with asking one question from what you've just mentioned. And I believe that's going to be very important for everyone who's listening to us or watching us today. You mentioned a while back that the most challenging part for you was to build your confidence, because there were many voices around your in your own family, in your surroundings. How did you build that confidence?
Yes. So, what's really interesting, and the first time I heard that, it really kind of did something to me. And so I just want to warn that maybe people will feel the same way. However, there's some truth in that. So when I was in this situation, I heard someone saying, I think it was one of those motivational speakers like Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or someone like that. They're just saying it's like, you always have a choice. So take it into your own hands, and you always have a choice. In every single situation, no matter what you go through, you always have a choice. And I was like, what do you mean I always have a choice? You know, I mean, you know, like I was kind of like waiting for things to happen to me instead of me taking ownership and making things happen for me. Right. So I think that this was, and it took me a while to understand it, but I get it now. Like we really do have a choice. And so being confident is a choice. And at the same time, confidence is a skill. Like none of us are born and straight away are the most confident people in the world. No, like you build your confidence. It's a skill. It's exactly the same like resiliency, for example, right? Or courage. It's a skill that you work on. And so I realized that I have a choice to actually, you know, develop that skills like confidence and courage and resiliency, or I have the choice to just stay in the moment and wait for something to happen that, like what at the end, you know, like no one will do it for me, like no one will kind of build a business for me and I'm just going to be like, hey, I'm here, you know, like that's just not how that's going to work, right? So I think that was for me the key point. And now every time I'm between, like when I have a lower moment or when I'm making a decision or when I just want something to do differently, I'm just telling myself like I have a choice. So what do I choose to do? Like, do I choose to stay stuck and feel miserable here? Or do I choose to make something and create like something for me that aligns with me and on top makes an impact on people, right? So I think that I really hope that people listening just understand that you have a choice. Like if you want to be more confident in who you are, then choose to do that and choose to do the work to get to that point where you develop that muscle and develop that skill to be confident.
That's terrific. And I think Claudia has summed up this episode so well, leaving you with the most efficient, actionable step that you can take in any situation. And it feels so interesting, you know, if you are in a situation where you feel stuck and you feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. And if you just change that dialogue in your mind, and if you say, I have a choice, let's give it a go. Let's try and see. And the moment you say, let's try, and know that I have to get it right, it changes something in you and you have a hope and you do it. So thank you so much, Claudia. I think this was a very good episode. Definitely for me, I felt like I'm getting a free coaching session. Which is amazing because your energy is contagious, and I would love my listeners or people who are watching us, that if they have loved what you have shared today, I'm sure they have, and if they're interested to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yes, of course. And I have to say, Ishani, like your energy is very infectious as well. So you create a very good space. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So people can find me on social media mainly. So LinkedIn, it's Claudia Anavarias, and on Instagram, it's claudia.varias. And I also have my own homepage, claudiavarias.com. So people can find me there.
Lovely. This is the amazing Claudia Varias over here and Ishani Nigam signing off. Before I do that, oh my God, I completely forgot. This is the very interesting bit which a lot of the listeners, they really like it, which is I always request my guest speakers to leave with their favorite quote or a saying that they resonate with.
Yes. Okay. So one of the saying that I leave you here with is, you will never know how amazing you are if you always try to be normal. It's a quote by Maya Angelou. So don't be normal, because if you stay normal, you'll never know how amazing you are. So just
That's amazing.
Not normal.
So listen to Claudia today. Don't be normal, be yourself.
Yes, exactly.